here's your boy to you, do I feel old list.
God, it does. The fact that this is from Yardbarker, and this is a really, I thought, a pretty good list. Notice it says essential, not best. It's just thrown out there. And these are 30 movies turning 30 years old in 2025. It's hard to believe that 1995 was 30 years ago.
Yeah, I know.
Like, if we were to remake a movie you never watched, Johnny, Back to the Future, Marty McFly would be going back to 1995. Because in the Back to the Future, he goes 85 to 55. And I don't know if culturally it'd be as jarring, but I'm sure it still would be for someone of his ilk to go back to 1995 and be like, what the hell is this slow technology? And I don't really have a smartphone. And what the hell is this payphone thing? And how the hell is this guy a president? He was a jamoke that in New York, and now he's a president in 2025.
Right. That's a really interesting point was it, I don't know if it's just because we're too close to it or because we lived through it or something, but, growing up, like Happy Days, Laverne and Shirley or something, that just seemed like a completely different time.
Yes.
Did stuff change so dramatically in the 60s that it was just a shock to the system? Because I don't know. Yes, obviously technology has changed in the last 30 years between now and 1995. I'm just trying to think if society has changed all that much. You watch Seinfeld and you go, okay, yeah, he's got a cordless phone, but it doesn't. I don't get that.
Machines, but
I don't get that feeling that it's a completely different era of time. It still works for some reason, and I don't know, man. That's weird. That's weird to me. So
it is.
Anyway.
No, I get you. I'm right there with, because you're going through this list, right, of these movies that are turning 30 in 2025. These essential ones according to Yardbarker. It's like some of these still would not be. Some of them hold up, some of them don't, but they wouldn't be that out of place.
Okay.
So Batman Forever turns 30. So that was the one with Jim Carrey as the Riddler and Tommy Lee Jones as Two-Face. So that was at like the zenith of the Jim Carrey powers.
Mm-hmm.
Also turning 30 this year, Clueless. And that's one that I don't know if that one holds up. I haven't gone back and watched Clueless in a long time, but when I read that aloud, it's one of those ones that I don't feel old until I realize that's 30 years removed.
Right.
Because Alicia Silverstone was like, I was like, I could have dated Alicia Silverstone. And now to think like 30 years removed from the movie Clueless, which has its issues, by the way.
Let's be clear about something. Let's just hang on for just a second. Let's be clear. You would have been an appropriate age to have dated Alicia. You could not have dated Alicia Silverstone.
Truth.
Let's say that the right way. Completely different.
I was at the appropriate age.
Age appropriate.
Correct.
Yes, as somebody Alicia Silverstone's age, you could have dated, but you could not have dated Alicia Silverstone.
Dated her. Correct. You are correct. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yeah, that's fine.
You are entirely correct. But there's problematic parts of that movie of the fact that she eventually dates her stepbrother. And we're all okay. Like, that's what we're rooting for at the end. Like, oh, isn't that cute?
Yeah.
And it's like, not so much. Also turning 30 this year, Friday, a classic. The Mighty Morphin Power Rangers movie turns 30.
I forgot how just how ubiquitous the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers were. They had a moment in time when every kid was all about Power Rangers, and then they vanished as quickly as they came on the scene.
Yeah, then they were gone. I actually made the mistake, and it's on this list. Apollo 13 came out the same weekend as the Power Rangers movie. And I was like, my family was going to see Apollo 13, and I was like, this seems, I don't know about this. I'm going to go sneak into the Power Rangers movie. Mm-hmm. I was in that movie for 10 minutes, Johnny, and I go, this is crap. Like, and I even watched the TV show from time to time, and I was like, nope, not even the Pink Ranger can save this from being awful. I'm going to Apollo 13, and I'm glad I did, because that ended up being a very good movie.
Yeah.
Also turning 30 this year, Braveheart. And the thing about that is people still quote that freaking movie.
Yeah,
They can
absolutely.
take our lives, but they can't take our freedom.
Yep.
It's still being quoted 30 years freaking later. The
Yeah,
staying power of that particular movie is impressive to me.
no doubt.
It Takes Two, the Mary Kate and Ashley Olsen movie,
Oh my
turns
gosh.
30 I know, when they branched out on their own. Talk about two individuals who are stuck in a moment in time of a certain age in your mind, and
So
you can't wrap your head around it.
how old are they now?
They're got to be close to 40.
I guess so. Let me.
I mean, if this is turning 30 in 95, and it looks
Yeah.
like from the photo they were 6 or 7, so
Yeah,
they got
they're
to be 36, 37 years old.
38. They're 38.
30. Think about that for just a moment. The
Yeah.
Olsen twins are now 38 freaking years old.
Because you're
That's
right, they're
crazy.
locked in my head as
You got it,
as
dude.
little kids. Yeah, right. Adorable little kids.
They're always going to be little kids. Also, a movie turning 30 this year, Billy Madison. Another movie that still gets quoted to this day.
Yep. Yep.
If it's way too hot out for a Penguin or Nudie magazine, like, people still, good to see you, Carl. Like, there's still quotes from that movie. Now and Then turns 30. Like I mentioned, Apollo 13. Some of the other ones on here, a Goofy movie turns 30 this year. Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls, also turns 30. Casper is on this list. Here's one, The Usual Suspects
Oh, sure.
turns 30 years old. And has that movie lost its... It was kind of the forerunner of the, oh, look at the big twist ending. But
Right.
because of all we know about Kevin Spacey now and everything that surrounded him, is that a movie that's 30 years on is not as impactful as it probably should be? Because still a damn good movie, and that
It
ending
is.
still is like the forerunner of The Sixth Sense and everything else. It was kind
Right.
of done first in Fight Club by Usual Suspects.
Yeah, right, right. And there was it kind of came out in that era of really dark, gritty Quentin Tarantino type movies. I mean, it all kind of had that feel to it that you don't see a lot right now in movies.
No, you don't. And it's one of those things that when you watch back, when the reveal happened in that movie, spoiler alert, by the way, 30 years on, the reveal and when they and the way they took you through the processing of the detective questioning Kevin Spacey in that, and you're like, how the F did I not realize this? Like, all the clues were there in front of me, and son of a bitch, he pulled it off. Also turning 30, the Babysitter's Club movie, the movie Casino turns
wow.
30, and De Niro's still making movies, and he's looked old then.
You know, I was having that thought while you were talking about Apollo 13 or Usual Suspects of something has changed. I mean, somebody like Tom Hanks, who's mid-60s, I think, 60 something. You know, I don't know, mid-60s seemed a lot older when we were younger. Didn't it?
I would not disagree with you. I would not disagree with you at all.
And not that
And it's interesting.
Not that not that it's not young, and it's not that that we're all we're closer to 65 than we are to our teen years, but they just seemed older. They seemed like they were running out of time. And Tom Hanks doesn't seem like he's running out of time.
I think the portrayal.
De Niro doesn't seem.
Yeah. I think it's part of it is the portrayal of the age of those characters now skews more active. I think, when we were younger growing up, the portrayal of those in the movies and everything else was old and just kind of, and they were on the cusp of just, death at 65 or whatever it was. You had the Wilford Brimleys of the world, no offense, Cocoon. Like, those people were in there, like, what, 63,
Something,
64 when they made Cocoon? It's like, oh God, we need the fountain of youth. And now it's like Tom Hanks is out there, and
right.
Liam Neeson is kicking people's ass at his age.
Tom Cruise is doing
I think the portrayal is
decathlons.
just different.
Yeah, I think that's it. I guess you've seen those memes go around where like Archie and Edith Bunker were in their 40s in All in the Family, and Fred Sanford was 45 or something, even though he was playing a
Good
guy in
Lord.
his 60s.
Yeah.
And so yeah, there was just that perception of you get a little north of 30, and you just are you're just an old codger.
Yeah, you start to nosedive. Some more on this list of, and we can post this on our socials. This list from Yardbarker of 30 essential movies turning 30 this year. Tommy Boy, Chris Farley. I mean, think about that. The fact that he's been gone for as long
Yeah.
as now that he's been gone
So yeah, he's been
is
gone for
kind of hard to
almost
wrap your head
25. Yeah, that's something.
Yeah, Jumanji also turns 30, and it's still a successful franchise. They rebooted it with The Rock and everybody else. Kevin Hart, still a successful franchise. Tu Wong Fu, thanks for everything. Julie Newmar is 30 years old.
God, I forgot about that movie.
Toy Story, the original Toy Story, is 30 years old this year.
Yeah.
And they're still making Toy Story movies.
And Tom Hanks is still
That
a
is-
voice. Yeah.
And Tim Allen is still the voice. Right? I mean, it's Dangerous Minds is 30. With the Gangster's Paradise song, Michelle Pfeiffer. Looking at some of the other ones. Empire Records. Empire Records was one of those teen coming of age movies of like that Gen X, like right there with Reality Bites, of like everyone you knew, like, oh, those were the cool people. They worked at the record store, and you strive to be one of the people. Like when you watch that movie, you're like, oh, who are you? Oh, I'm the stoner guy, or oh, I pined for the one lady, or I was the starving artist. And now it's like, you look at that, what's a record store? Why are they caring? Why are they working so hard? Like, it's so out of touch anymore.
Yeah, it cracks me up that in those days we were all called the slacker generation. And here we are 30 years on, and now our generation are the ones running businesses and hiring people and making all the money. But it just shows you how things, they change, but they also stay the same.
Right. And it makes me feel old because that soundtrack was a banger, and it's 30 years old. Also 30 years old this year. Bad Boys, and they're still making Bad Boys movies.
That's right.
And so to your point, right, about the age, Martin Lawrence and Will Smith are still in those movies, right? 30 years later. So they're 55 to 60, and they're still doing the action movies now.
Nobody bats an eye. Nobody bats an eye.
No. Babe, the talking pig, turns 30 this year. And lastly on this list is the Mortal Kombat movie, turns 30 this year.
Wow.
Yeah. I remember going to that movie and thinking, oh my God, this is great. This is just like the video game, Mortal Kombat.